Timberlake, and I'm honored to be in your presence. I was thinking that if everyone respected their children like you are respecting yours, that we'd be living in an entirely different world. So I cannot thank you enough for doing what you're doing. I think you're changing the world. I started studying peaceful parenting when I was 6 years old. I was looking for alternatives back then. I would go to my friends' houses and I'd make mental notes of practices that I saw their parents do that I thought were emotionally healthy. And then I'd read all the biographies I could on people that inspired me so that I could learn more about their parenting. And then when I was in college, I did research on parenting in more primitive cultures. And then read all the psychology I could. And when I moved to Houston, I started watching all the immigrants from, all over the world and see what I could see in public from their parenting, and I would adapt a lot of the stuff I saw. And of course, when I had children, I was learning from them. Don't we learn so much from our kids? It's like incredible. They really transform me. And then I went to talks like this, where I was listening to mothers who had gone before me, and I learned some really helpful guidelines that I could apply, and I applied them, and they were very effective. And so now I'm hoping that I can do for you what those mothers did for me. You know that if you don't vaccinate your children, and I didn't vaccinate mine, you don't want to give them the same environment or lifestyle or diet as children who are vaccinated, because you want to give them a better chance to be healthy. Well, likewise, if you don't discipline your children, you don't want to give them the same environment or lifestyle as children who are disciplined, because you want to give your children a better chance to succeed in life. We're all on a different path, and y'all are the perfect parents for your children, and some of what I say might not resonate with you. You might think I'm out of touch with reality, but some of you might want to be more out of touch with reality. But my plan is to give you some tips that you can use so that you won't ever feel the need to discipline your children. My children were doing what they wanted all day long, expressing themselves however they wanted to express themselves. And whenever we'd go out into public, strangers would come up to me and say, "Your children are so well behaved," which kind of implies that they thought I was telling them how to behave, but of course I wasn't telling them how to do anything. And let me just briefly tell you where my children are now. When my son graduated from college, he went to Beijing to work. When he was in college, he had spent a semester in China, and that's when he knew that's where he was meant to be. So he was working in Beijing, and then he went to graduate school in Shanghai, got a master's in international business, and then he wanted to get a marketing job in Hong Kong, which is a really hard nut to crack, especially if you don't speak Cantonese. But he's got that unschooling spirit. I'm thinking, after a few years, you could try for Hong Kong. But he went to Hong Kong, and because he did not go to school, I'm going to repeat that, because he did not go to school, his social skills were highly developed. Isn't it weird how people think that you can get socialization or good socialization in school? Well, I wish people who say that would just spend a day in school. But anyway, because he did not go to school, he could talk very well with adults, and that opened doors for him all along the way. Got him to college and got him into Hong Kong. Plus, because he did not read until late, his creativity is really developed, and again, that helped him get a job in Hong Kong. And let me just say, on his resume, he said, "I don't want a job, I want a challenge." And he has a challenge, and he's respected in this job. He's given lots of responsibility and freedom. And I want to say that when we give our children respect and freedom and trust them, they attract that later in life. My son's CEO treats him like a colleague, which is just the way my son's father treated my son since he was like 15 months old. And so it comes back to your children. So I can't recommend highly enough that you keep respecting them like you do. And also, when he's traveling back and forth from China, he always takes, make sure he has a layover in some country that he wants to explore. So he'll, 6-hour layover, 24-hour layover, and so he's been to Turkey, Korea, Singapore, Philippines, all these places. And why I'm telling you this is because I never have to worry about him. And can you imagine, you'll be doing the same thing when all these parents are worried about their teenagers or their young adults. We don't have to worry about our children because of the way we're raising them. When my second child, she had graduated magna cum laude from Ohio State University, where she was the director and the anchor of the Buckeye TV News. And there's two anchors, one director, so top of her game. And most kids, when they get honors like magna cum laude, they're selling their soul, ruining their bodies to do so. But she wasn't trying to graduate with honors. She was just playing the game. But she wasn't burnt out. She hadn't been dumbed down by school or by television, and she hadn't been hated in all her life. When she got to college her first year, she called me and she said, "Mom, these kids are all idiots because they were all acting like they just got out of jail, And so when your children get out and do whatever they want to do, and hopefully they don't have to do the college thing, but whatever they're doing, they're going to stand out." Oh, and even though her resume is really juicy for the media, she's dancing here in New York City. She's in a company. My youngest just graduated from Wake Forest University, and Wake Forest is ranked 20-something by U.S. News best colleges, and it's by Forbes, it's ranked quite a bit higher than NYU and Brandeis, just to give you an example. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I didn't want my children to go to college. But I didn't think she had an academic bone in her. So again, as you're watching your children, you will be surprised. Not that anybody needs to go to college, but it's just surprising what they do. Oh, and she is now in Little Rock, Arkansas, because she's doing a city year, and they placed her there. That's part of AmeriCorps where she's helping underprivileged kids in the classroom. So she's in the elementary school for the very first time. And she's appalled, and she says, "Mom, they can't go to the bathroom when they want to go to the bathroom. They can't start writing when they want to write something, and they can't finish it. It's all in the teacher's control." So I don't know how she's going to make it, but she loves the kids, and she's learning so much. So now I want to start talking about prevention, what you can do. Should I have like a microphone?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Or just talk louder.
Or we can close the circle.
So I'm like, not, you could.
Why don't we can close the circle, make it smaller.
That sounds good. I'll talk while you're moving. So now I'm going to talk about prevention, so that you can do what you can do so that you won't ever feel the need to discipline your children. And I want to start at the beginning in case some of y'all are going to have more children. But I think we should respect children before they're born. Does an unborn child want to go to a violent, loud movie? I don't think so. Am I talking loud enough now? Barely? Wow.
It's just the dynamics of the room.
Oh, really?
It just echoes really loud.
Does anybody, on the other talks, did they use a microphone?
No, some people just talk loud.
Okay, I'm trying, okay. When I was pregnant with my first child, I ate perfectly. I wish somebody had told me to calm down because, when we're stressful and pregnant, it's disrespectful for our children. And then once they're born, they need to be close to us. And you all know this, but, our society, I think, would be a completely different society if we took care of babies like they're meant to be taken care of. And how easy is it to just sleep with them, give them that protection while we're sleeping. Am I talking loud enough now? Yes. Okay. So, and you know this, but our society doesn't know this, but a baby is talking to us before they start crying, and they communicate it with us in different ways. And a third of the time, they just want to go outside. And I wish more people realize that. I mean, just even getting, some fresh air is calming for our babies. And the whole point is the calmer infancy and childhood they have, the less problems they have, so we won't feel ever the need to discipline them. And which brings me to my point that the answer is always outside. The more time we can give our children out in nature, the less frustrated they feel. I used to say that we didn't have time out, but we had time outside. Especially my youngest needed more time outside. She would go outside. She knew so much about plants because she would be out there all by herself, and the other two didn't even need to go outside, and she would study the plants. It was just amazing what she knew. But I just think the more we go outside, the healthier our children are. And I know it's a little bit harder for y'all because it's colder up here, but we had to get creative too. And when it was very hot, I would take my children to the park in the dark, in the no lights, and they would swing and slide and do all the jungle gym stuff. So I'm hoping that you have ways to get creative so you can spend more time outside too. And I want to talk about this time when it's such a fleeting time, and there are just moments within that fleeting time when our children express themselves or express their frustrations fervently or have passionate meltdowns. And I want to suggest that we enjoy this time and not just breathe through it, because whenever we can enjoy something, we're raising the vibration of the house, or we're improving the quality of the energy within our house. And whenever we're doing that, of course, we have less problems, so we won't need to discipline our children. And when my son was in this stage, he'd go into his room and I could hear him say, "I want to cry." And I thought, oh my gosh, if his, father and his uncles and his grandfathers, if they could do that, how beautiful would that be? And my youngest would have fits in the middle of the kitchen. And so I'd start doing the dishes, not to interrupt her, but I'm feeling so much relief as she's, releasing her frustrations. And I'm thinking, generations of women, who didn't get to express themselves so loudly. So I thought it was a beautiful thing, and I enjoyed it. And the speaker who's going to speak after me talks more about this and the feelings, but I'm just touching on it and saying, why not just, enjoy this time? And right before I came here, I saw something, or actually heard something that I must have heard for a reason. And I was in the grocery store, I was in produce, this poor little girl was in, the checkout counter, and you could hear her all over the store. And I want to differentiate this was not just a release of, her frustration. She was dealing with addiction and something else, I don't know what, but it was not, at the end of these normal times when they're expressing themselves, it's such a, we have fun, and it's a bonding moment, and it's a beautiful thing. And when this poor little girl was dealing with a lot more, but that's all preventable when you do peaceful parenting like I'm talking about. Hey, interrupt me, if you want to say anything. Yes.
This doesn't work if you adopt. No.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. You have to do a talk on adoption.
Yeah, I don't know much about unschooling at this point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you'll get through it, and then you'll tell people how do you unschool when you adopt. Yeah. So as a life coach and a holistic health coach, I tell my clients to write their intentions, because when you write your intentions, the universe starts to conspire with you, and amazing things happen. But also, it helps you stay focused because you've got voices coming to you from the past. And if you write down what you really want, you're more likely to stick with that. And so I'm going to give you a couple of intentions that I hope that you will add to your list. And the first one is, I want to get out of my children's way. I wish somebody had told me that. I had to learn. I learned pretty early, but I had to learn through trial and error that once I got out of my children's way, everything went more smoothly. We saved money when I got out of my children's way. And if that sounds too vague, if you write it down as an intention, because I don't know where y'all all are in this process, but if you write that down as an intention, you'll start to see examples where you can get out of your children's way. And the other one is, I want my children to follow their hearts. And I think most parents say that, but what they mean is once they get a college degree, they want them to follow their hearts. But once you've been directed all your life, you no longer have the ability to perceive, what your inner guidance is telling you, and you don't trust it and you can't follow it. So I'm suggesting you write down this intention, and you're thinking, well, I'm unschooling, so why would I write that down? Because my children get out of bed and they're following their inner guidance anyway. But I want to ask, what keeps anyone from following his heart? And did I say, everything goes more smoothly when we do follow our heart? I'm going to say inner guidance now. So if everyone in the household is following their inner guidance, we're not going to have any discipline problems. I didn't mean to say that, but we're not going to have any issues that make us want to use discipline. If you're not following your inner guidance, it's not going to keep your child from following their inner guidance, but it will probably keep them from following their hearts longer, later into life. I wrote Soul Secrets of Salsa, and it teaches people how to follow their inner guidance because most adults don't know how to do it anymore. And I noticed that we have a lecture coming up about following your life's purpose. I was going to mention this anyway, and which is on the same lines. And if we're all, finding our life's purpose and doing that, one, we are more likely to get out of the way of our children. And when we're out of the way of our children, then everything runs more smoothly. And so what keeps a child from following his internal guidance? And I'm just going to reiterate that why I'm talking about this is because if we're doing our life's purpose and we're following our inner guidance, everything runs smoothly. You won't see anything that will make you feel like you want to discipline your children. The first thing is external guidance. My husband never gave my children any guidance, not even like, everybody remember your coats, because he thought it was rude. He thought it was an insult to their intelligence. I didn't give my children guidance because I thought, who am I to guide them? I was being guided by them. But if we can just remember, when we give them external guidance, that messes with their internal guidance.
Can you give an example of that? You don't like it, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so okay. So if my child, so my dancing daughter, she went along, I knew that she was going to be a dancer when she was 3 years old, because we went to go see the Nutcracker, and she would come home and she would dance like they do in the Nutcracker to the songs, but I didn't put her in ballet just like everybody else does when children are 5 years old or 4 years old. I waited till she decided that she wanted to go dancing. So
you didn't suggest that you
never.
didn't enroll her?
Right. So I waited till she wanted to go dancing to take lessons. And then, so when she started it, there's never any problem I mean, sometimes it's problems to get because you think, well, I just paid for a month and you don't feel like going. But, you know, she waited until she was ready to go. And then the other thing is I took her to where, you know, people who could afford the best took their kids for ballet. And I drove up and she wouldn't go in. She was following her intuition so much that from the car, she could tell she didn't want to be in this place. And so now this is when I wasn't quite as evolved. I'm like stamping my feet going, well, just try it. But, you know, I gave up and I drove her to this other place and it looked like a warehouse. And the owner who opened it, you know, she's in jeans and she's just motherly. Well, my daughter just walked in. She knew that's where she was meant to be. And it was the perfect place for her because she got to be a child. She got to dance and be a child as opposed to being where it's, you know, very stressful for ballet. And I could sort of go on with that story, but does that give you an example?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you waited until she vocalized the desire to be in dance class.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Right. And so she was 9. Now get this, she got into college because of her dancing. And you know how most people start their children at 4 or 5, but she didn't start ballet until she was 9. And she also went to a relaxed place at first, you know. So she didn't start kind of like the more hardcore dancing until she was 13. And anyway, so that's, her dancing has opened the doors for her life. So.
Did you, knowing that she liked dance at such an early, did you sort of put dance or shows in her way to spark that, or
well, yeah, and I love.
She just asked for it. Like, how did you?
Okay, let me think. I had Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies, you know, and so my girls watched that, and then we would always go see. We didn't just watch ballet. We'd go and watch all different cultures dance. So yes, she was seeing dancing, and not the kind of dancing that she does now, but yeah, we were watching all sorts of dancing. But, you know, I took my son to see that too. That was just, you know, something I would do anyway. I like dancing. Rewards and punishment. Now I was thinking that y'all are all on the same page with me here, so I wasn't going to say anything about that. And so I was thinking that I would just say that if you've got parents or in-laws who are, no?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, okay.
I made a face.
Okay, so you know, it's so hard. I don't know what everybody's thinking. So my kids were raised without punishment, without rewards at all. But it goes even deeper than that. But okay, the first thing I was going to recommend is a book called Punished by Rewards. And on my website, I do have a link to it. And okay, so now I do need to say more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
No, oh, wait a minute, look at you. I needed to know. Well, simply put, we did no punishment. I mean, like, no punishment and no rewards. And I'm telling you how the environment was set up for my kids so they never, ever needed it. Because when you change the environment, they don't need it. But, well, and also the other thing is, you think outside the box. So, well, you know, you see people running around in the hotel. Actually, my kids were a little bit more reserved just because I'm more reserved. I was really thinking, well, anyway, if we completely change the environment, we won't need punishment or rewards. And also, if we think outside the box, let's say, you know, children who are not doing their homework, you know, or, you know, like for instance, my son didn't read until he was 11. By the way, on my website, I've got that story written up, so if you know, it really helps to be inspired by other people's stories. But if your child was going to school, you'd be upset, you know, well, you've got to start reading now. But if you're thinking outside the box, like unschooling, you're not worried about when your children are learning to read. Yes.
So I have a question. I have 11 and 8-year-old, and we struggle a lot with sharing. And so I'll still do punishment milder with them. I haven't done timeout in years, but I don't know how to navigate, how to build an environment where I don't have to have discussions on sharing or sibling stuff where they.
Well, and I'm going to, all the things I'm saying will answer this question, but it'll seem like a roundabout way, but I do want to say also that I remember when my girls were little and they, would squabble over something, and they would come to me to tell me, and once I figured out not to respond, so like one of them would come and say, the other one's doing this, and I said, oh, and had, no other more response, they would run back and they would figure it out themselves. And that's the way my kids always were, if you don't interact, they figure it out themselves. And if you're in a peaceful environment, they don't learn to, fight each other. You keeping the environment peaceful is part of that, and two, not trying to fix the problem. They get where they fix it, and they do so peacefully. And of course, you're modeling peacefulness and you're modeling sharing. So modeling is, huge.
So I got a question on
Yes.
that, right? So we travel a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and invariably they'll pick a time, it seems like, when I'm not in my Zen state, so to speak.
Yeah.
18-hour traveling journey, etc.
Right.
Everybody's tired, hungry, etc. In that state, at that moment, it is difficult to step back and provide that environment, right? So how do you, maybe you can give us some more examples.
Well, I think
into that.
it'd be helpful at those times when we say, I'm really tired, I can't respond properly, because I just noticed when my daughter is, my youngest who's in elementary school, when she's driving home with a friend, she doesn't feel like responding to her friend, and she doesn't say, I'm not in my Zen moment right now. I just need to, say to myself, I can't really respond. I mean, what would they learn? They learn not to react when they're tired and when they're agitated.
Well, one of our issues is I think we're all type A in the family, right?
Oh,
So sure, I'll tell them, look, I'm going to pop a fuse. You keep going down this road, it's going to happen. You still keep going down that road. So there are times when I have to walk away, I'm getting better at it, etc. But the practical application of no reward and punishment, maybe it's easier for you, I don't know what you guys think, but it's not an easy thing to implement day to day.
Oh man, and so I thought I was that everybody listening to me were gonna be bored as I'm flipping through this because you're already there, so you never know who you got.
So I have boys who wrestle, and they don't get up, there's no peaceful squabble. They go at it, and they want to they go at it, and I've got to break it up because somebody will inadvertently lose an eye. So I have to break them apart, and we talk through it, and it hurts, and hitting, even though he didn't want to give it back to you, or he took it, you shared it, whatever it was. I get it, I understand, and we try not to take action when we're upset, and I have those talks with them, but they go at it.
And you're sure you're, like he said, he's from a type A family. Well, that's building up stress in your car in the first place, right? Just that.
Well, they're 10 and 13, so they know now logically to put me in a conundrum where I feel like you're either choosing this one or that one. You better not choose this one or that one.
Well, so for both of y'all, I think, are you really watching your stress within you? Because the more you're calm.
Obviously, I'm not perfect at it. Yeah, I want a much more peaceful household where, my husband comes from a family of 2 other brothers, and he's one of 3, and he just said, you have to kind of get used to the fact that they wrestle and that they go at it at each other. And I'm like, what? I got to that, I mean, it went like, it was like at the top of the stairs. My children will be on the low level and squabble over like, I gave you that Lego, but now I want it back. And when you told me that you want it, I'm like, well, can we find my piece? Let's find another Lego. Let's shift.
Well, my answer was when my girls were, something close to that, I went out to the garage and I just, waited until it was over. And I swear they quit needing me. I quit trying to help them out.
They waited for me to come back.
No,
Physical abuse.
What?
I don't know. I got an 8 and a 5-year-old, and the 8-year-old wants to pummel the 5-year-old. They love each other, but he wants to take him down.
I think it would be really helpful for us to talk about what exactly you're talking about when you say rewards and punishment, because I think there's a difference between consequences to your children's actions and your own actions as anybody's actions as a human, and punishment. Where for me, I think punishment is hitting or doing something to a child because they did something that you didn't like. Where consequences of hitting another child, there are consequences to that, and some of those consequences can be that child doesn't want to play with you anymore because you hurt them, and that's not a punishment. It's just a consequence of an action. And finding ways to work within consequences to help your child see what is happening, and I don't know,
So in that scenario, you don't even have to do a thing because
Right.
the other child doesn't want to play with them, so they get
Right.
the
But
consequences.
But within a family dynamic, there have to be consequences also, where my daughter sometimes gets violent with me if she's upset. She had an experience with a child who was very violent with her, and now she's reacting with violence when she's feeling upset, and it's something that we're all working through. But when she's violent with me, I have to say, I don't want to be hit, so I'm going to walk away. And in her mind, maybe that feels like a punishment because I'm taking myself, which is something that's dear to her, away from her, but it's a consequence of her action. So it's not, I'm not saying because you hit me, you can't have dinner. But I'm saying because you're hitting me, I need to remove myself from the situation. And in the same, if you have 2 children where you're a protector of both of those children, I don't think it's necessarily punishment to say, I have to protect your little brother or your little sister or the family dog, or I need to stop this from happening. And I don't think that that's necessarily the same thing as punishment. So I kind of went off, but I would like to hear more of your thoughts of what exactly rewards and punishment are, what you're talking about when you say that.
But, okay, so I'm really big on prevention. So in that case, I would mourn, she had a loss of innocence when that happened, where she was attacked by somebody else. And I would really mourn that loss with her, because when children have a stifled grief, of course
Right.
And so sometimes, we can, prevent anything like that when we, get together and mourn that loss at that time. So big on prevention, and so I didn't do anything except step out of the way and let my kids handle things. So yeah, I didn't do consequences.
You didn't?
No consequences, yeah. I mean, whatever consequences when they were with each other,
And would
happened.
you warn them of the consequences,
No,
or you
no.
kind of let it happen?
Yeah, just let it happen. And it got to where my theory is if the environment is as peaceful as it can be, that things don't get elevated. And that was my experience. That if you're staying calm and peaceful, and things don't get so elevated, and when I stepped away from my kids, when they started getting violent, and I wasn't doing anything, they made sure it didn't get violent. Yes.
But with me, it gets worse. I have 2 7-year-old twins, and they're best friends, but they'll unbuckle on the highway, start kicking each other in the face.
No,
chunks out of their skin, and they didn't see it or watch anything on TV. I don't know where it came from. It's not from any, it's just among themselves. And if I ignore it, one of them will get hurt. And I do ignore it, because even if I walk out of the house, they'll follow me out with the problem. And I didn't have that with my daughter, and I didn't have that when my brother dropped off his two sons when they were little. I babysat the breathing. It's just the dynamic of the twins, where we might go on vacation Friday night for 4 days, and we're still debating on do we really want to go on that road trip. Because my husband can't handle it. He flies off the handle and starts screaming. And I could ignore it, but when they get hurt, I don't even know what to do with it.
So you said they didn't see anything like that on television, but how much television are they watching?
No, they don't watch a lot. We don't even have cable in our house. I'm just saying it's just among themselves. I don't know why
Well,
they.
so where does that anger come from?
That's what I don't know. Like,
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't come from, like,
It's really the temperament of your child.
I mean,
Like,
it's all over.
I really feel like there's children come out with different temperaments, and also I feel like we all have consciences, all of us. Like, we have an internal guide, but if you ignore it, if you ignore that guide, what happens is it becomes seared. I mean, at least that's what I believe. And like, if you watch, like, if kids watch shows on TV, right, over and over, they're not, their hearts become seared.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, like, I mean, my view at least is that a part of my role as the mom is to help them to help them not allow their consciousness get seared. So, for example, if my daughter is whatever, like if I just think there has to be some sort of this is not acceptable, because you're like, one of the things I really liked in this parenting book I read was that when the child says stop, you must stop.
Oh my God, yeah.
And the thing is that, and so if the kid doesn't stop, then there needs to be a consequence for that, because the thing is that words need to be valuable, like, so that if they get in a situation where, an uncle so-and-so tries to do something, or, like these type of things where, like, words are valuable. And I don't know, like, because and also you like, I look at, like, my husband's temperament and my temperament, you can't control his, like,
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
like,
where they get it, yeah.
but at the same time, like, you can't change that environment, but you can, like, that's not acceptable. Yes, maybe your dad gets upset like that or whatever, but when you're with me, that's not acceptable. And if you choose to do that, then there has to be a consequence, because otherwise, I mean, at least, what do you think?
Well,
Because, I mean,
first of all, I think y'all are the perfect parents for your children, and they're making the perfect decisions. And you're listening to your hearts, and you're thinking about consequences. And I think y'all need to go with what's in your heart. But also, the more we work on ourselves, the more our spouses, and I'm going to talk about this at the end, work on themselves. And our parents work on themselves. So one thing that we need to do is to work on quieting our minds and feeling, better in our lives. Doing the work that we need to do, and follow your intuition. And I'm going to talk more about prevention so that you're not getting into these things. And I think not having the TV on is one way to help.
Well, we don't have it on once. It's not.
It's not
I'm just
consistent.
saying it's incongruent.
Yeah.
Even my one son threatens, I'm leaving the house, I'm going to go away. And everyone says, oh, he must have heard it from somewhere. Like, I'm
Yeah,
with
yeah.
him all the time.
Yeah.
He made that up himself that he wants to
Yeah.
leave. Like,
Yeah.
he's not, I don't believe that's true. When people say, oh, they heard it from somewhere. It
No,
came
I
from
agree
him.
with you. I agree
Like
with
him saying he doesn't want to live anymore. I'm like, what? Like,
you. Yeah.
he's like a suicidal thing at age 6. He didn't get that from
Yeah.
anything. I mean,
Well, I think they come in from past lives with
yeah,
a lot of
it's
stuff,
not, and I know it. When people, and I'm telling you, I watched my brother's two sons when they were little, and they were different dynamic. And I even have my sister's baby all last year, who's 2. Good temperament, easy to watch. My twins were like very difficult from when they were born. Like, they just were very different personality, and they're strong about what they have a mind of their own, and they just, so I see other people with their kids and they don't go through what I go through. Even though they're best friends, like they love each other and they play nice, but when they fight, it's there. It's,
Now, I think you were right, you said nature versus nurture. I mean, it's definitely
I
some
think it's more
people
nature
are
than
different.
nurture.
But look, I think within the context of what you're saying here, stopping from what keeps the child from falling into the guidance, I get it, the rewards and punishment taken to an extreme will always have them focusing outside for rewards and avoiding punishment. I get that. But we live in a society that is based on reward and punishment, right? We have laws, if you don't obey them, you want to call it consequences, punishment, whatever, right? You go do a job, you get rewarded by bonuses, whatever. That's what we live in. So there are consequences. I can't go red light just because I want to. But I get what you're trying to say here within that context. Maybe that's what's important to understand.
I mean, I can relate to my boys and and you know, wherever they got it from or it comes from internally. I get the dramatic, I'm gonna die, and he's 8. And you know, they love each other, but they will go at it with each other, and I'm really all about working a lot on myself, and when I'm calmer, they do, and I can see the result. However, there are moments when, because they don't have all the tools and all the learning, because they're 8 and they're 5, I get it, so, but I do have to intervene so that somebody doesn't lose an eye or a chunk of skin, you know, because they will take it to that level because they don't get what's on the flip side, that somebody can really get hurt.
I think if you don't intervene, they figure out more quickly how to not hurt each other because they don't really want to hurt each other or get hurt. What were you going to say? I'm sorry, what?
Instead of going out of the room, is there your way just to be present and peaceful next to them?
Yeah, I went out of the room just because I couldn't help, you know. It took me a while before I got where I didn't intervene. And then I got where I could be right next to them. And then they would come and, you know, say something and I would say, oh, instead of, you know, trying to solve anything. And then they'd go back and work it out. Just like your husband is saying, boys do this. I mean, I hate to say, you know, try it. The other thing is, too, you are the perfect parents mother for your children. So, you know, I'm hoping that you will follow your intuition on what you need to do. But I can tell you some more things that will help prevent the situation. And the next talk that's coming right after mine, she talks more about feelings and what to do in those circumstances. And I talked about it at the end, but I was talking about, now I'm not sure how much time, but I'm talking about prevention a lot. We didn't do any judgment, praise, or criticism. And, you know, we all know all the reasons not to criticize your children. But when I was, what?
No, I'm saying crap. I do all. I still praise. I try not to critique, but I praise. I'm like, okay, that's no.
Don't go that far. But when I was, you know, 28 years ago, or when I was, you know, where y'all were when I was listening to these talks, I listened to a mother, she was a psychologist, talking about the problems with praise, and people were crying and getting angry and leaving, and we were all realizing that we were addicted to praise, and yeah. So God, you know, and then we had just come from a generation of not, you know, being criticized, and we thought, well, we're not criticizing, and then now you're saying don't praise, you know, your kids, you know, it's like the bar had just been raised. But, and I was staying on the note of how everything runs more smoothly if we're following our hearts. So I was going to say that, you know, when your children wake up in the morning, they're following their heart, and then when we praise them, they start going towards the praise. And, you know, if it keeps going, then they get addicted to praise, and then they're not following their inner guidance. And when my children would, like, draw a picture, I didn't say, that's good, and I think we could really get rid of that word good. I'd say, you know, is that a boat? Where is it going? You know, I'd talk to them instead of stand above them and stamp my approval, because I didn't want them to do anything for my approval, and it really helps when they don't do anything for my approval. It makes their life a lot easier later. Okay, keep raising hands if I... indirect opinions. See, these little things really make a difference. So like, you've got a child here, and then you comment on somebody else's dancing. Well, this child internalizes it, and maybe he will dance differently, or maybe he won't dance because of what you said about this person over here. And worst case scenario, like I have a gay nephew, and he lived in a family who didn't say anything about him, but we're trying to keep marriage out of the church. So that's indirectly, this child is getting his feelings hurt, and that causes problems. So my point is just watching what we say. Just these little things. I know you think I'm saying little things and don't make a difference, but they all add up to something that help the children's behavior later. Noise. Y'all have a lot more noise in your generation than we didn't have. I'm going to go quickly now. So I'm just saying, stop, look, and listen before you say anything, because we don't know what we're doing to our child's mind when we speak. This is the same list. What happens? What keeps a child from following his inner guidance? And addiction, or anything that messes with their mind. And sugar. Sugar has a lot to do with behavior. Do your children, or are they? No.
Okay.
We know what it does to your mood swings, and we know what it does to your behavior and your ability to learn. But also, if you're dealing with addiction, it's very hard for you to follow your inner guidance. And then TV or video games. When I was unschooling, we didn't have computers yet, we didn't have cell phones yet. And none of my friends had TVs, and only the Christian fundamentalists had video games. So it was a lot easier.
You didn't have a cell phone then?
We didn't have we didn't have cell phones, computers, we had televisions, but none of my friends didn't have them, and like I said, not video games yet. So it was a lot easier, but we went back in time, and it's not a bad idea to go back in time. My mother breastfed me in the 1950s, so she kind of went back in time, against what everybody was saying. No research at the time, but so anyway, I was going to say more of this, but now I'm flipping through. When I was where you are, and I listened to a mother speak, she talked about control the environment, not the child. And so I went with this, and then I think a lot of people are thinking just don't control anything. I don't think y'all are thinking that, so I'm speaking to a different audience that I prepared for. But what I think is I don't think y'all are against controlling the environment. I think a lot of unschooling parents are, and I was just going to say that whether we have a TV or we give our 2-year-old a cell phone or we don't, in any case, we're controlling the environment. And I'm thinking that if you don't want to control your children, and that's what unschoolers do, that why would you let something else control them, like sugar or TV? I don't know, I'm still not answering your question. I swear the next lecture will. And I'm thinking, why not provide them with a safe haven where their mind, psyche, and bodies can't be messed with? And you're modeling all the time, and you're also modeling when you don't even know it. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute. I'm just going to say that, how we were just talking about some things, your children they are the way they are. If you start to worry about something, or you've got an in-law that's worrying about something, and you could get their astrology chart done, where you're looking at the exact time, date, and place that they were born, and like my child would skip from one hobby to the next. Well, it ends up in his astrology, it says, of course, you're a jack of all trades. And my daughter had trouble making decisions, and if you look at her astrology chart, it says, of course she is. So maybe there's, the answer that everything's happening just fine the way it is. It's in the stars. And this is something kind of what y'all were talking about. One thing we can do to prevent problems later is to protect their innocence, and their innocence gets whittled away at over time, and we can't protect it altogether, but we can protect it as long as we want to. Like,
I'm sorry, I just want to talk about that because, like, you're saying in the situation that I've described where, like, my daughter had an experience with a playmate of hers, and in that situation we're kind of doing what you're telling her to do with her boys is, like, the situation was one of the children was very aggressive and my daughter's not very aggressive, and he was being very aggressive with her. And
wait, this is both your children, I'm sorry, or one?
No.
Yeah, well, that's a little different. I mean,
but it's not, because you can still have those same dynamics within a family. We were living with this family and for some time, and so it was a very close relationship. It was not just like one time in a play group this happened. It was a continuous relationship, and we tried letting it unfold and letting her, I mean, the idea was to let her learn how to deal with his aggression. But what ended up happening is that he was bullying her and he was being aggressive with her, and it ruined her innocence. It took away her innocence. And so I don't understand how you're proposing we protect their innocence, but also say, like, well, there's no consequences
well,
here.
that was outside of your family, so
But you don't think that the same thing is possible within a family?
Well, if you set up the environment, that when you're working on your physical comments, I think there's less violence within your family. But if in that situation, I would have taken my child away. I would have protected their, innocence. It's hard to call.
I just think there's a lot of nuance to what you're saying in that, and I also feel like I don't know if anybody else is getting this impression, but it feels like you're kind of saying, well, if you as a parent can just be perfect all the time, then you'll never have to deal with any problems. And it's kind of like,
We can listen to the end of what
No, because I
I
do say that when we work on ourselves, but I'm sorry that I get what you're saying, and that's why I said protect their innocence. But we're not always there to do that, and so that's why I'm saying the next thing I'd say mourn their losses.
Yeah.
When we didn't protect their innocence, because we don't know, we can't always.
And what does that look like for you, mourning their
Well,
loss?
like
of innocence?
when my son and his cousin were with us at the lake, and they ran off to go watch their uncles clean the fish. And I didn't know they were going to do that. I mean, never seen anything like that until they came back, and I could see the looks on their faces. And my aunts and my mother dropped everything and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, and you didn't know this was going to happen," and hugged them and just talked about it and mourned it, and I think we can prevent a lot of problems later if we mourn those losses, and they come often. But we're so lucky that we get to be there and we see them happen. Like my daughter who's in school, who's helping in the school, she heard this little boy say that he liked this other little girl, and she yelled out, "But I don't like him," and that mother won't know that that happened. And we do get to be there, and we can mourn that loss. And the next talk is going to help you some more, okay? So trust your child. You know how it feels like when you're trusted. And I will give you some examples, but I don't know how much time we have. But my children used to, like my littlest used to climb up on this structure that they've torn down since then, and people would run over to me and say, your child is up there. And I say, I know, but I trust them. But not just trust them with physical things, but also with their life, their learning, when they're not learning to read until they're 11 or 13, just to trust them. And when my children were in college, I never asked to look at their grades. I thought that would be an insult to them. But I just trusted that they were going to take care of, their life the way they wanted to. And of course, the nutrition, makes a huge difference. I learned from my husband's immigrant parents, to feed children like the grown-ups eat, vegetables and meat, and no child's menu was a macaroni and cheese, to feed them with all the different colors. And my children would ask for second helpings of broccoli because they, ate vegetables and they liked vegetables. So that makes a huge difference on mood and behavior. Okay, so this is my solution and it really makes a difference, but I feel like you're not going to believe me. No, I'm not looking at you. I'm just looking at you because you'll smile at me and not frown and not walk out. Okay, so this process I have it on my website, and I learned the power of it when my children were young and older, and then I use it with my clients to help them get rid of irritating people in their lives. And so anyway, it's on my website. You can listen to it slowly while you're doing the dishes. But it starts out like this. So you see, Krat means, rule or to govern, and I say that once you learn this, you'll rule over your life. But the C is for complain. So if your child has an issue, and my example is going to be, older than your children, but I've got a couple examples. But let's say when my daughter was 13, she went to a dancing school, and whenever the more advanced children came in to dance, to the classroom, they'd be waiting outside, putting on their shoes and watching her class. And she would start to freak out, and eventually she started not wanting to go to dance. And she's a dancer, she's dancing at this point. So what do you do in those circumstances? You can get into a situation where you're going, but you have to go, you've got to go try it, you've got to, get through this. But I am an unschooler, so I didn't do that. I looked within myself to see what I was doing. And okay, so first you write down all of the issue, and then and I put on here, and I remember when, instead of giving more power to it, act like it's happening in the past, and then you reword or rewrite what you just wrote, get it down to one sentence. Like, for instance, my sentence would be, my daughter is afraid to dance with the better dancers. And I think I'm not resonating with y'all because that's not the kind of issues you're talking about. But let me just give it because you can apply your scenario to it. And then you erase your child's name and put your name on it. So this is very literal, and lots of times it's metaphorical. But so my sentence would be, I'm afraid to dance when better dancers come in and watch me. Well, literally, I was doing this because at night, at 10:30 at night, I was dancing salsa, and she never knew I was dancing. She didn't know that I had the same fear that she had, and the better dancers would come and watch. And I'm trying to do this fast. Like I said, there's an audio tape that explains this a lot better. So my action was to get over my fear. So my daughter doesn't know that I'm also afraid to dance in front of the better dancers. So I'm on the dance floor, the better dancers come in, and they're watching me. I keep dancing. My daughter's sleeping, it's 10:30 at night. The more I kept dancing while the better dancers were watching me, the less fearful I became. And in the other part of this big city, my daughter's problem just dissolved. Same thing happened when my son was overeating, and I didn't think that he was getting it from me because I was a closet overeater, and there was no way he saw me overeating. But once I quit overeating, he quit overeating, and so I never had to say a thing to him.
So it was more of your unconscious junk reflected on them, and they felt it, and then they exhibited it.
Yeah, yeah.
They manifested.
Yes. Yes, and when I cleared it up in myself, it cleared up in them just quite easily.
You didn't even have to tell them?
No, they
Like,
didn't even.
I'm going through this. Did you ever say that?
No, they didn't know I had the issue, and they didn't know that I even noticed that they had the issue. I applied it to many things. I also applied it to people, with my clients. Like when they come to me and they've got a pattern, they keep attracting the same type of person, or they keep, there's some person who's irritating them in life, okay? Like for instance, I used to talk judgmentally about school and teachers, and then I had started having someone who was judging me in my life. It was driving me crazy, right? So once I quit judging teachers and school, this person got transferred to another country. And I do this with my clients, and they have people get transferred out of the country or out of the city, or like in the case of my parents, whatever my parents were doing, I worked on it within myself, and my parents changed without me having to do anything. Okay, now you talk, because
What was the
Tea.
tea?
What was tea?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I didn't finish this because it gets a little. Look on my website, and here's my website, and you go through, listen to it more slowly and understand it, and it's, I'm trying to rush because I think, I don't want you to miss the next one, but I think this must be time, and I was supposed to leave room for discussion, and I'm not answering your question, and I think the next speaker is really going to resonate with you.
I have to work in the dragon.
You have to what?
Work in the dragon's lair now.
I know. Okay, does anybody know what time it is?
It's 12:55.
1 o'clock. Okay, good.
There's a sound recording of all those.
Yeah.
So you can just check that.
I will. What is
Okay.
talking here next?
Catherine, she talks about feelings,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and she's more psychological, more intervention, and I'm more new age and preventive. So if I didn't resonate with you, she will. But anyway, what else do you want? Do you want to talk about something?
When you say prepare the environment, I understand physically you removed TV, cell phone. Did you prepare for them emotionally somehow?
Oh, yeah. But I was learning this as I went. But just like I had to wait for the signs. At that age, I was waiting more for the signs. Just like I said, when something happened with them, I didn't realize they were reflecting me. I had to work on it.
It was a reflection of you.
Yeah, and so then when I worked on myself, and then they...
Did your husband reflect everything onto them? Or did he
I have to say, he just didn't interfere with them, and he was sort of out of the way, just loved them. So I didn't have this, issues with him. However, I think the more we work on ourselves, the less trouble we have with our spouses too, because they're reflecting us in a way too.
I'm just kind of curious what you did, or if you ever had an experience where there was, we can control our home to a degree because, that's within our realm, but there's such a big world out there. Even if we take out television and cell phones and computers, there's just, we can only control so much of their environment. And how have you dealt with those things coming from
Frustration,
the outside?
perhaps, of
Well,
you're cutting us from the world. And you are,
I think, just like I was telling you that now when my children go out into the world, they were going out into the world too, but it's not like we were going, to wrestling matches or anything. But Now, when my children are out in the world, they attract respect, trust. I mean, in the jobs that they have, because they were respected and trusted to handle, their situations, and because they were respected so much, that's what they
But
that's
when
what
they were
attract.
when they were a child,
Yeah.
if they were seeing friends with television, they were not feeling frustrated.
So I made friends with other mothers who, and I don't know how they got these ideas, but they all didn't want television, so they all didn't have television.
Yeah.
But my son, his
I don't think
best
that
friend.
exists as much
No, it's
anymore.
right.
Like a big group of people with.
Well, no television, yes, but no computer and no cell phone.
Yeah.
I don't have television, but you have the computer. And the...
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's much harder, but like I said.
Did you have any experiences though when your children were young where they were out in the world and you couldn't control their environment and you had to deal with these things that came up, and how did you deal with those things?
Well, first of all, yes, they had a lot of time outside because my husband and I were divorced, so I wanted them to go and see, what other couples were like. So they were always visiting other people. And my son's best friend was a Christian fundamentalist, homeschooler. So it was a whole different world, and they're watching TV and playing video games and everything. So I really, don't even know, except that they were playing outside a lot. But I just trusted that, he could handle that. So I only know what was happening. But
How did you deal with that?
I didn't deal with it. I just trusted it.
Yes, but when they would tell you, I want to see those video games, I want to
They
play
never
those
did.
video
They never did. They weren't ever hooked on television or video games because we had it so little. And I have a video on my website talking about what it does to your brain. And they weren't around the TV enough to have a brain addicted to it. So they weren't addicted. So they come home, maybe. And the other thing is they protected themselves. I didn't want to say this, so I didn't get to say this. They protected themselves, so they were protected. When they would go somewhere, someone would offer them sugar or cake or something, they would tell them they didn't want any. I was like, really? People would tell me that, and I'm like, really? I can't even believe this, but it's like I do now, I protect myself from unhealthy things, and they were doing that. I think it had to do with, that I protected them, and then they protected themselves.
Did you have a hard time with because I think I made my child anxious. I'm pretty sure I have because
You made your child what?
anxious.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Me too.
when I was into health and all this,
Yeah.
I am. As I drink my coffee right now, which is totally not. In general, but I think I made her almost obsessive because I'm always trying to protect her from being around, eating processed foods and all this stuff, and it's I get I don't know, how do you, and now my daughter has this pica where she always has to chew something, she's constantly looking for, but
I think when you say, made your child anxious, definitely I made my child anxious, but not about food. I just had this environment where they didn't have sugar, but I never said don't eat anything when you go out, and they just did that. With the food, I was a little bit more relaxed, but I know exactly what you mean, because I'm more like that now, I think we definitely make our children anxious, and if you're telling her not to eat something, as opposed to, you're just eating it, and that's, just what is in your home, I think that's just more relaxed.
yeah, so it's just letting go. I think I need to be in my home more. That's my issue, is just just going even because it was even anxious being around other people because they don't eat this,
Yeah.
just that. I just feel like I hurt her, and then with the whole letting go, I need, because I get angry. This is
Yeah.
You know, so it's like,
You really got to take care of yourself. And my youngest was like that. She would be just jumping all over the bed while I'm trying to sleep, right? And then she had to hold on to my ear. I've been trying to sleep, and she's pulling onto my ear. I tried to just take it and, you know, wait, and she eventually fell asleep. But I know what you're saying. You get grumpy. I would try to figure out if there's some way that you could, you know, not get grumpy so you're not spanking them and then causing more. But you do have to take care of yourself, and it's okay if your children see that you're angry. You know, what if you just yell, but you're not yelling at them, and you know, yell and say, I'm tired, I just want to go to sleep, and, you know.
I used to have the same problem with my daughter. She's 6 now, but I remember she would want to stay up forever. And I knew I had to get up in the morning. And I knew I needed my 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So I just would start talking to her, like, you know what, I know you want to stay up really late. And I get it. But I need to get up in the morning. And I need to go to sleep. And she sleeps next to me. So it was like, after a while, she was just like, okay. So, like, we'll be laying in bed, and I'll try and read as much as I can to her or have a conversation with her, and I'll be like, I gotta go to sleep. And now she's like, fine with it. But I used to get angry too, and she used to get upset, and whatever, it was this whole big, you know, intense dynamic. And I think part of it was just like recognizing you have to take care of yourself. And, you know, you're unschooling, we're all unschooling, but the idea of unschooling is that you're following your heart, you're not following everyone else's rules.
Yes.
So just because everyone else says, we don't have a bedtime for our kids, like, I have bedtime for myself,
Yeah.
and child safe protects me, so if she kind of has a bedtime,
And
what
also,
do we do?
I was going to say, just that you went through that experience, how beautiful that was. Y'all had an issue together, you talked to her. I mean, that's worth the price of it all, just to go through that together. And don't you know she loved that you were talking to her, you know, explaining it like, you know, like y'all are in this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We converse so much more than I ever conversed with my parents, and she's so easygoing now, and it was a lot of struggles because I'm a single mama, and I felt like I wasn't supported in a lot of ways, and I was exhausted, and, you know, trying to figure out, like, how the heck does this all work? You know, like, how do you be a single mom and unschool and, like, you know, get work, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It was crazy, you know, and I was frustrated and whatever, but, like, that concept of just, like, you know, as I get older, you can communicate with them and they understand what you're saying. Like, people say, like, talk to your daughter that way, she's 6. So I'm like, she gets it, you know, and she's got great vocabulary because of it, and she has a very great understanding of adults, and she's, like I said, she's very easygoing now because, you know, you just explain to her and she's like, okay, yeah.
And I think you can start reasoning. I found that my children, once they were 15 or 17 months old, you could start reasoning with them, you know. But anyway, I just think it's so beautiful what you did, and just having that problem in the first place and then working with that problem, that's better than preventing the problem in the first place, I think.
Yeah.
For your child to you know, start learning how to have a problem and to deal with it.
Right, and you're saying, like, they reflect what's going on for you. So I was feeling chaos, and so it felt like chaos on the outside. And then as, you know, I figured things out and things moved out inside of me, but things moved out outside of me as well.
I think it's
It sounds
beautiful.
like your heart's in the right place. You actually know what you'd like to be.
oh, I know, very clearly, but I don't know how to get there. That's like,
But you really need to look after yourself. You've got a little one, it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, you can't expect miracles.
I around about the conference, and you've got to look after yourself as a mom, as a woman. You know, as a person, it's draining. You know, it takes it takes a lot of energy. You know, just having physical energy. You're not sleeping and not feeling tired. It's exhausting. I think dialogue is the biggest thing I take out of this conference so far. Is the dialogue between a mother and a baby, a child, a toddler, a few months. You know, you just keep talking and discussing. You can explain to her that you're tired and you had a little lump stuck on you. You know, just keep talking. Like I'm saying, eventually it does help. It
And think what you'll teach her. You'll teach her to ask for what she needs, you know, as she's getting older. And that would be so beautiful.
Another question about the screens and sugar and these things. In a world, I understand totally when you're in a situation where there are not so many things in your environment, like phones and computers. And for the first 2 years of my childhood, it was like this in Spain. Now we moved to Mexico, and the impression it has come to our life, and the videos, and I have a way of like downloading only videos that I'm still controlling the content, but I have the impression that it's better not to tell him don't do it, or just limiting time, or limiting things, or saying no, this is bad in the supermarket. Just let him do his own experiences. And I don't have the impression it's so much as an addiction, because I realize for me that has been more like restrictive as a child. I might have more this bulimic want to eat the whole Nutella, the whole, and he's just eating a little bit and leaving it, or he's looking for video and then he turns off the computer.
Yeah.
And I prefer to preserve this, not to tell him to create frustration so he will like have this bulimic want. So what do you think about that?
I think you're doing it perfectly. And so, like I said, all my friends didn't have TVs, but when my girls were little, we had Mr. Rogers, because I knew that didn't mess with their mind because it wasn't, you know, flashing so much on the screen. And when they got to be in high school, they you know, without me even saying anything, they picked out something they wanted to watch, you know, and it was because we didn't have the TV running all the time. They picked out really high quality stuff, but I didn't tell them anything. So I did like you, except with less influence. So you're doing what I did, not saying anything. Your child just has a little bit more of that in his life, which might be just why he's born during this time period. You know.
And thanks to that, he's learning languages, he's learning many things that help.